So this week I wanted to go over the characteristics of personal narrative writing as well as the tips that I've been including on my notes and use examples of the personal essays that I posted last week. So hopefully this will get you a better idea of how to use those in your own essays, and also you'll see that, again, while there is this big long list, a lot of them are going to be combined into different things. So I'm going to go, there's quite a few examples, so I'm going to go over them kind of fast, but hopefully you'll get an idea. So the first one is invincible. And again, the first one that is a characteristic is that there's a point. So a lot of times that point is going to come at either at the beginning, or a lot of times it's going to come just at the end of the essay. So this one is about feeling invincible, but then going on this climb, and then how it gave them an opportunity to put faith and trust in the Lord. So it's not just about the climb, it's about what the climb taught them. Similarly, you'll see this in other essays as well. So we have this one about the person moving, and then they had the idea that while there were surprises, they were no longer daunting because they had to put their faith and trust in God. So again, it's kind of similar. We have, again, this next one, which talks about the service that they had to do during the Teton Dam flood. And again, it was about being grateful for that opportunity and being able to serve others more than the actual service itself. And then here again, this one is about learning from someone that you thought couldn't teach you anything, as well as growing themselves. So dealing with Elder Waddell. I even included one that I did, which is not quite a personal essay. It's a little bit different, but the idea of it's not about the fact that I had to go through this traumatic experience. It's about learning how to endure that experience and what I learned from that. So there's always a point on these. The next one is the epiphany, and a lot of times this might actually go along with the climax. The climax and the epiphany might be the same. So a lot of times that's happened. Sometimes it's an event, sometimes it's that feeling that you get. So as you can see, let me just show you in some of these essays. This first one about climbing, it comes right here where they talk about all of the climbing, and after they're done, really, they say, finally I made it. I was trembling. I couldn't believe that I'd come that close to death. One small mistake and my life could have ended. I hadn't even got on my mission at this point. So this idea of, at the same time, it's both the climax and the epiphany that are kind of going hand in hand. This next one is kind of interesting because the climax actually kind of comes at the beginning of the story, and then they work their way back, building to that. So you see it, usually it's at the end, but here it's kind of at the beginning, as well as they'll go back to it. And then they again have the epiphany where you have to put the trust in the Lord. In this one on service, the climax is kind of obvious, the Teton Dam, but then again, it's also about the epiphany comes with everything that comes afterwards, right? All of the helping, and that they got to learn that serving others brings a rare gift of joy and contentment. So that's the epiphany. So this one is a little bit different. In this one about the missionary story, it could be maybe two places. Depends on what you think the emphasis is. It's either where Elder Waddell found the investigators, and also he felt where he's thanked and he realized what Elder Waddell had done for him. So those are two examples, and then also this idea of what he's done for him, that's the epiphany. And with mine, it may be more, the climax is more at the beginning, that big event, and then the epiphanies come after that. So different things like that. So the next one we're going to look at is suspense. So each one of these should have some kind of suspense. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but each one of them, you shouldn't know exactly what's going to come next. So that's what we're looking for. Self-honesty. You want to make sure that you're honest. I know that's hard, but it usually comes off better that way, right? You identify more, and there's, again, this kind of goes into the universal recognition. You'll understand more, and you'll feel like you connect with that person if they're honest, because we're not all, everything doesn't go. So for example, in this first one, they could just focus on how great a climber they were, that they weren't afraid at all, but they focus on how close they came to death, and that's something that we can identify with. This next one, I think we all can identify with that idea that everything's going to go right, and then it doesn't go right, and then all your plans falling apart. And the next one here, where they talk about the service. Some people, again, you can identify, we've all had this feeling of service, and this one where they talk about the feelings that they have for other people, that's the honesty. In this one, it's not so much about what they did or other people, but it's about the feeling more in this one. And the one about Elder Waddell, it would be easy to just talk about all the things that Elder Waddell gained from him, but he's honest and he talks about what he's learned from them. In my own essay, again, pretty honest about how I felt, and that not all of them are very, very happy feelings, right? And so that's another thing, especially that you'll see throughout different essays, is that it's not always about being happy and cheerful, but being real and showing people. So description, again, it could be sensory or it could be emotional. So you don't always have to do sensory stuff, although that's a good way to get us to feel like we're there, describing all of the sensory imagery around it. It can also be about describing your feelings, right, and being really honest and real, not cliche about those things. And also, it could be also about, being detailed on some of the experiences that happened to you, all those things, and really making it clear that what was going on. So that's one thing. Character development. With this short a paper, you may not see a lot of character development, although you will see that epiphany, and so you should have some kind of thing that changed your thought process just a little bit. And then also chronological organization. So again, most of the time you're going to deal with things starting from the beginning to the end. Occasionally you have a couple where you're going to kind of start in the middle on that main event and maybe flashback. But for the most part, it should be chronological so that people can follow along, or you're going to use good transitions so that people know where they're going. The tips that I put here, again, they kind of go along with what we've been talking about. The first one is don't just tell us a story, give us details. Try to remember as many details as possible and put what seems necessary to help others experience your story. So again, you may not put everything, but there are certain parts that are the focus, and those are the things that you want to focus in on. Also, dialogue is another one that's really good. On the other hand, don't try to include all parts of the story, but focus on what's important. A lot of times people want to put too much in the beginning to build up. Make sure that you just do a little build up, the main events, and then conclusion, because you don't have long enough to do probably more than that. If you have a longer essay, you might be able to put more, but also think about, even though you think all of it's important, some of it may not be as important as you think. Finally, even though it's a draft, read it over when you turn it in and do it from the reader's perspective. What might they find unclear or hard to understand? What details would they like to know that you might have left out? Or what did you put in that you might want to leave out? And then I also added this last one because this is the final draft. Is this formatted according to MLA? Do you run a grammar spelling check, look through and read aloud, and possibly use Grammarly tutor and classmates feedback? So those are all important things as well. basically, right, MLA, all of these essays here from last week are going to be in MLA. Also, writing your paper MLA style will show you just real fast what that looks like. So that means double spaced, again, Times New Roman, no extra spaces between indenting of paragraphs, margins are 1 inch. And then also, to get used to doing kind of a different styles, this one has header and headings. So you make sure that you insert using insert at the top left, a page number and your last name, as well as your name, my name, the name of the class, as well as the date. And you go from smallest to biggest. No punctuation, no abbreviation. So things like that. And just remember that you still have to maintain professionalism, so you want to make sure that you're running a grammar and spelling check. In this case, you can be a little bit more informal in your wording, but you still want to follow the rules. Look through and read aloud. You're going to pick up a lot of grammar issues if you read things aloud most of the time. And then, of course, you have those options. You can use Grammarly, you can use a tutor, you can use your classmates' feedback. If you have any questions on whether you should do something, feel free to ask me. And all those things will be helpful to you. So let me know if you have any questions. Good luck.